The John Morris Show, episode 112. In this episode, how to build an advanced website template using PHP and Bootstrap.
The John Morris Show, your life on code. Ladies and gentlemen, John Morris.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the John Morris Show on johnmorrisonline.com. This episode, another little tech tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to take Bootstrap templates that you'd get, say, from Start Bootstrap or Wrap Bootstrap or something maybe you created on your own, and how to turn those into an advanced template that allows you to very, very quickly crank out websites for clients using just a little bit of PHP. Now, this is something, I think this is one of the more profound things that you can learn how to do in your career, because when you get this down, it allows you to take some really nice looking, well-designed themes and turn them into templates that allow you to very quickly crank out sites for clients. And this is something that I've used for building sites for all sorts of different clients, and I've used this kind of thing a ton throughout my career, and it can really, really reduce the overhead that you need to get going in a career. Once you just know this one thing and how to work with this, it can really kind of set you free to go after clients, especially clients who just want, local business clients who just want kind of a standard page for their business. They want it to look nice. They want it to look good on mobile, etc. You can crank these out really, really quickly for them. All right, so I'm going to walk through all of this code. I'm going to kind of show you how to put this all together, and then I'll talk about where you can get access to this code at the end of it if you want access to the code I'm looking at here. All right, so I'm going to start off actually on the index.php page, and actually before we do that, let me talk just a little bit about some of the folder structure here. So I'm going to drag this over. So I'm using a theme from Start Bootstrap. So these are some themes that are available at startbootstrap.com, and they're available, I believe, I haven't looked through all of them, but most of them or all of them are available for free over there. They're licensed on GitHub, so you can use them, how you prefer and so forth. So that's what I'm using here. And it's a really pretty decent looking, it's a medium it's almost like a medium clone. Medium.com. So it looks really good. This is a blog setup. I mean, you could really take any sort of different kind of theme that you wanted or template that you get from one of these sites and do this with it. So that's what I have over here on the right is the files that I get from that site. The problem with these files, let's go ahead and take this about.html and we'll copy it over here to this is the actual template code that I'm going to be showing you how to build. But let's take this over here and let's open back up our tree view and let's look at this website template file that we get, this about.html. All right, so we'll go ahead and close the tree view here. So the problem with this is you'll notice that in this about.html file, you're getting all of the header information, the navigation. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, you're getting the footer and so forth. And so if you just take the template that you get from Start Bootstrap or Wrap Bootstrap as it is here, the problem with that is that if you want to make changes, then let's say I want to change something about the footer on all of the pages. Let's say I have 20 pages on the site. Well, because each file has this footer in it, now I have to go through each file and change this. And this is a standard kind of web design thing that we know that, that's why we link in style sheets, for example, right? We don't paste the code of the CSS in the top of this file, because if we wanted to make a change to our CSS, we'd have to change the CSS on every single one of the pages. So this is the same idea. What you get from them is not the best way to do this. So what we want to do is we want to template this out so that we can change the things that we want to be able to change, but also the things that are going to stay the same throughout most of the template. We can not have to rewrite that code. So we want to limit the amount of code that we're having to rewrite for each page here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and close this. So that's what this is. We're basically taking this and we're moving it over into a template like this. And you can see that we're using some PHP here. Now, if we go, you can set up your folder structure however you want, right? So you don't have to have this assets folder like this that has CSS, images, and JS in it. You could just have the CSS, JS, and images right here, those folders. Right. This is just how I happen to prefer to do it. But the main idea is if we go into our CSS file here, you can see we have cleanblog.min.css. If we go into assets and CSS here, we have that same file. Again, if we go into assets and images, we can see we have all these images, and from over here, you can see we have those. So we're taking everything from this and we're just organizing it and putting it together in a little bit different way over here. All right, so with that kind of context, then let's take a look at how we go about doing this. So the first thing that you'll notice is I'm on index.php here. You notice I have a little bit of PHP code here where I set a title. Then I'm requiring in header.php. And then you can see here I have this page header, and then I have this main content area down here, and then I'm requiring footer.php. So this is really the start of a template, right? We're putting all of our header code that's going to mostly stay the same from page to page to page. We're putting that in this header.php file, and then we're including it in here. So that way, if we want to make a change to, say, the menu or something that's in this header file, we can change it in this header file. And because that file is being pulled in here, then it'll change across all our pages. So if we go to about.php, you can see same thing. We're pulling in header.php and footer.php, and it's just a little bit of code that's unique to this about page that is changing. So the only thing that we want hard-coded, so to speak, in our actual content pages, which are index, about, post, the only thing we want hard-coded in there is the things that are unique to that particular page. The things that stay the same, like the menu, the logo, the footer, the social icon, all that stuff that stays the same, we want that to be in some sort of template file, whether it belongs in the header, the footer, etc. Okay, so that's the first idea. Then this is kind of basic templating. If you've seen some of my stuff before, this will probably sound familiar. Now, what starts to add some maybe complexity to this is the fact that let's look, for example, we're on our index.php page over here. You can see our title tag here says clean blog. If we go to about, you can see it says about me. If we go to our sample post, you can see, man must explore, and this is exploration at its greatest. You can see that's the title tag here. So we want to change our title tags for each page, right? That's important for search engines and just usability for the user and so forth. But that actual title tag is specified in our header template here, which is being included in every page. So we still have to be able to change some things about the template parts that are added or included in every content page. So we're adding another layer of abstraction here to allow us to change things. And so that's what really this is the start of. So we're setting the title as a global variable here, and then we're using some code to then display that here. So instead of hard coding a title here, we're actually using a function that I've written over here called the title to display the title. That's why it's able to change on each page. So what's nice about this is that you can really, really abstract away from this if you really wanted to. One, you can easily add new pages. So let's say I wanted to, and I accidentally did that. So let's toggle the tree view, and we'll open that back up. But let's say I wanted to create a new post, right? So here, this post.php is just kind of a generic template for any sort of post. But let's say I wanted to create a new post. Well, all I'd have to do in order to do that is really just come in and I'd change my title tag to whatever the title of the post is. And then I would just change the content. I just have to write the actual content of the post here. I don't have to do anything with the footer, the header, any of that. And because I have this template set up this way, I can very easily create a new post or a new page or whatever on this site and have that level of dynamic, that little extra layer of abstraction on there that I can do this with. All right, so again, the first thing is this require here where we're templating this stuff out and including these template files in. The second thing is then setting these variables so that we can add that extra layer of abstraction to allow certain things to change in the templated files from page to page. All right, so let's now start at the kind of the very beginning of the framework part of this and talk about what's going on here. So the first thing that we're doing is we're simply creating a config file. And for now, I just have the absolute URL of the site that I'm working with. So this is one of my development servers that I work with. I just have the absolute URL of that here. Now, the reason that I've set that is because when I go into my functions, it just allows me to define this in kind of a application global sense so that whenever I need that URL, I can use it. But you can define anything you want in here. So I've built templates where I'll actually define, the menu, or not necessarily define, but I'll set the menu in here, or I'll set the logo URL, or I'll set the description, and I'll set all sorts of different things in this config file that I can then pull in the rest of the template to parse it out where I want it, or to place it where I want it. So you can set all sorts of different things in this config file. For now, I'm just using this absolute URL because that's the one thing that I've used so far. And that's the other thing about this is as you build this, you can build this out and you can add things in here. And I'm going to show you a little bit how to do that here in just a second, but it makes it really convenient for you to do that. So again, I'm just defining this absolute URL here. Then in functions, I have which first off, I'm including the config file. So the config file is kind of the base file. And then I'm including that into the functions file. And then if we go into header, I'm including the functions file into the header. And the header is included on every single page. So what that does is that gives us our config file and our functions file available to every single page that we create. Okay, so if we go back to our functions file, I just have a couple functions. So the first one is getting the title. So all I'm doing is globalizing title. So that is being set up here in the global space of this particular page here. So I'm just grabbing that so I can use it inside my function. I'm literally just echoing it. Now that's a really, really simple function. The reason why I've put it in function as opposed to just echoing title is, let's say, what if you want to do something different with this? Maybe you want to change everything to uppercase, or maybe there's some SEO magic you want to work here. I recommend putting these things in functions so that if you want to add to them, you don't have to come in and then change all of the files where you use them. You can just change this one function, and since we're calling that function in the rest of our template files and in our content files and so forth, then we don't have to go through and change each one of those files. We only have to change this one function, so all of the calls to it will be updated accordingly. Same with the home URL. This is literally just echoing the absolute URL. Again, in case I want to do something with this, and also because it adds consistency in the sense that we're using functions, so we're going to continue to use functions. And I just think that using the this as it's defined, I just think it looks ugly. The constant, that's what I'm looking for. Using the constant in our template files, I think looks ugly. So I like just put it into a function. But again, I can change this up and then I can add more functions. Okay, so that's all that's in our functions file here. And you can see then if we go into header that we use these in several places. So we're using the title here to output our title. We're using home URL here to give us an absolute path to our CSS for the clean blog theme here. If we go down here, there's probably a few other places. You can see we're using it in our navigation here for an absolute URLs for our navigation, etc. So these two things, or this functions file, really allows us to then inject some of that, again, the dynamic nature, that extra layer of abstraction into this template so that we can change the title tags. We can ultimately change whatever it is that we want. Now, the rest of this, the thing to know about the rest of this is really outside of the PHP, all the HTML is exactly what we got in our about.html, our contact, our post, and our index.html files. It's exactly what we got from our template. So really all this is taking, it's really kind of a two-step process. So it's taking what you get from the theme company, wrap Bootstrap, start Bootstrap, whatever. It's taking that and it's taking the overall kind of template and putting it into template files, header, footer, etc. Right? So we have all the footer stuff, closing body tags, all that in footer.php. We have all the header stuff, and that's going to stay the same across the header in header.php here. So it's doing that, templating it out into template files, and then coming into the code that was given to you, the HTML code, and injecting these calls, these function calls where appropriate for the things that we want to be able to change, or that we want to have change from page to page. So it's really fairly straightforward. Now, let me show you then how, let's say we want to add something. So I think it is actually index.php, or maybe it's post.php. So post.php is a good example here. You'll notice that in each one of these pages, I have this header chunk here, right? And this is, again, here in header, each one of these has this header block here. And the reason is because if you look, the image and then the text up here changes from page to page, right? So it's different on every page. So we have that here in every page. Now that's not the most efficient way to do this, because if you look at this, and I've left this way on purpose so I could show you this, most of the HTML is pretty much the same. All that changes is the URL, the image URL, the heading tag, and the subheading, the text that's in there. And if we go over to post, then you have an author with an author link, and you have a date. Okay, so there's a handful of things that change, but for the most part, all the HTML is really the same. So we actually could take this and we could template this out. So the way to do that is to look at what information do we need to specify in order to be able to do that. Well, so the first thing that we need to be able to specify is the image URL. So we're going to add that up here to our variables that we're designating here. And we can just pass in the end of this. So we're going to set the image URL to this right here. And as a matter of fact, we could get rid of assets and images because we know that's where all the images are going to be anyway. So we could just do it like this. This is the unique part. This is what's unique about this page. So that's the image URL. Next, we already have the title, right? So we don't need to create another one of those because we already have it. But then we have a subheading. So maybe under title, we would do something like subtitle. And then we can set that to whatever the subtitle is. All right, so just bear with me a little bit as I get through this, and then I'll show you how to use all this. All right, so we can set that to whatever the subtitle is. Now on this particular page, we have an author link, and a date. So we'll just do author, and we'll just set that to my name for now. You guys can see why I don't live type. I got fat fingers. We can do author link. For ease sake, I'll just use my own website. No, this might be an actual author bio page on the site. That's probably what this would be, but we'll just do this for now. And then we would do a date. Okay, the date this was posted. Now, immediately you probably think, well, let's use some fancy PHP. But actually, we're just outputting the date here. So we probably don't need to use PHP here for this. We can probably just do it just like this, because there's no reason to use PHP if we don't have to. And all we're doing is just displaying the date. So we can just set the date that it was created without any PHP. All right, so now you can see we have this information in the global space for this page that we can then use. Now what we need to do is we need to then create the functions that allow us to use this information. So then we come over here to functions.php, and we'll just create each one of those. Now I'm going to skip the commenting for now so I can, again, keep it brief, but let's just do function and subtitle. And we can get the subtitle from the global scope here, and then we can echo it. Pretty straightforward, and that gives us the ability to then grab the subtitle and echo it out and use that function. Same thing for, go back and look over here what all we got. Okay, so let's go to the image URL. So the image URL would probably be a little bit different because we're only passing in the last part of it. So in this case, we can globalize the image URL, but that's only the last part. So then we're going to echo out, let's just do, actually here, let's do this. So we can print out, and we can use, actually that probably won't, let's just do echo, and we're going to do our, we can't do home URL, but we're going to do absolute URL, right? Because that's going to give us our absolute URL. Then we can do like, and actually the slashes with it, assets / images / and then we can do image URL, right? It's probably a way to clean this up a little bit better, but off the cuff, that'll get us where we need to go. So we're echoing out our absolute URL. We're adding in the assets and images, which is the path to where our images are. And then we're adding in the unique ending of our image URL here. Okay, so that gives us our image URL. If we go back and take a look, we can do author, link, and date. Okay, so again, really straightforward. These ones are going to all be like kind of subtitle. So we'll change this to author, this to author, and this to author. And let's actually copy that. Make it a little easier on us. And then we can do author link. Now, yes, you could come up with some, method by which you, instead of having to write all these individual functions, you could create a parent function, like say, WordPress uses one called blog info, and then you pass in author, and it gives you the author, or you pass in author link and it gives you you could do that, but I'm just doing this like this now for kind of simplicity's sake. That's probably a better way of doing it, but again, you can kind of handle this however you want. So that gives us all of our functions now that we need. We have our title, subtitle, our image URL, our author link, and our date. All right, so if we come back over here to post, now instead of needing needing this here, the first thing that we can do is we can get rid of all of this, and we can pass in our functions. So now we can do something like PHP image URL like this, because we have that function. If we take this in here, instead of hard coding the title, we can use the title. Here we can use, and I probably should have done the on all of those, but this will give you the basic idea. You could obviously go through and name these better and so forth, but here it is subtitle. And then here we can use the author link author link. And then here we can change this out for the author. And then finally we can change out the date here. And use our date function. Oh. All right, so hopefully I typed everything correctly here, because I was trying to move kind of fast here. But that should give us, oh, and actually looks like I obviously, that's why I should have put the on all of those, because this is already a PHP function that I've declared over here. So we'll change this to the date. And actually, let me just go ahead and change all these so that I can be consistent. So, all right, so we're going to change all these to the. That should get rid of our error. And then if we come over here to post and we just kind of switch these out, so we add the to all this stuff so that we're calling the correct functions. And again, this is, you can do this however you want. The main point is the ability to write the functions that have this stuff show up, right? So that's the main point here, not kind of the minutia of what the names of them are and so forth. Feel free to completely disagree with how I'm doing it. All right, so you can see when I refresh that now with pulling all this stuff in, using the functions, I'm getting the title. I'm getting the subtitle. I'm getting posted by. I'm getting the author link. It's now linking to my website. So I'm getting all of the data, but now it's abstracted out. What that allows us to do then is to take this. We'll go ahead and cut this out of here, and we're going to put that in header.php. So now we can come over to header.php. We have our navigation. And now we can drop this in right below where we ended our header before, and we can add in our page header here. Okay, so now we save this, and let everything kind of update here. This is all syncing. Let me refresh this, and now even though I've put that in header, it's still showing up here on this page. Now if I go to about here, then you can see we have kind of some issues here because I haven't updated them for this new setup. So in order to do that, then all I would need to do is first off come over here to about PHP and get rid of this, right? Because that's now in our header file. Same thing for index. Get rid of this page header here. And then I would just need to add in my information here. So we can kind of come over here. We could just grab all of this stuff. And we could paste this in here. And we could paste it in here. Now, again, obviously this is going to be the same because I didn't change any of the information. But now if we go to about, you'll see I get this page. And you'll see I get here, and then all I would need to do is change out this information here. So the subtitle, the image URL, etc. All right, so hopefully that gives you the insight that you can template this stuff out. You can add a little bit of an extra layer of abstraction here that allows you to change the things that you need to change from page to page. And what's really cool about this is if you look at this, this is a pretty decent looking website here. Now, obviously, if you're not after a blog, then that's not going to be the kind of thing. This may not be your exact template that you like, but you can come over to say something like wrap Bootstrap, right? And you can go through literally hundreds of different types of themes that you could adapt this to, that you could take and you could put into this template. And what's really cool about it is that let's say you build a website for a restaurant. So you come over here and you find some sort of theme that works for restaurants and you adapt it to this template. And then you get another client that's a restaurant. You don't have to redo the whole thing. All you really need to do is come in and change some of the specific information. And you could change the image, you could change, the title, the logo, etc., and make this look like really a completely different site just based off of the images that you're using. The colors, when you hover over a link that you're using, you'd change up the CSS a little bit if you wanted. You could make some small changes and be able to use this same template for restaurant after restaurant after restaurant. And then maybe you do a real estate agent, and you could build a template for real estate and use that for real estate agent after real estate agent after real estate agent, using the same template and cutting way down on the amount of work that you have to do to deliver, which means that you can take on more clients more easily, you can get paid a lot more, all of that good stuff. And this doesn't require some deep, heavy knowledge of PHP or anything like that. I mean, you could start doing this almost immediately. All right, so don't overlook. I know this is probably fairly straightforward, and the idea in itself is pretty simple, but don't overlook what this is. This is something that you can use to great effect throughout your career. And really, templating, I mean, WordPress themes are basically this. Yeah, they're a little bit more involved. There's some more things that you got to do. But if you learn how to do this, you've learned the basics of what you need to be able to do a WordPress theme. And there's company after company after company that are multi-million-dollar companies that all they do is WordPress themes. So again, it's just like, I tell you this all the time, it's like online forms. I've showed you how to build contact forms. I show you how to do that in my PHP 101 course. And there's some stuff on Patreon for that. Don't let the simplicity of it fool you. Learning how to do one thing like this and do it very, very well, and be able to deliver quickly, to be able to deliver things that people want and not constantly reinventing the wheel, can really free you up. And it's about picking an end result that you can deliver consistently, you can deliver well, you can give people what they want, you can do it quickly, and you take a big load off of your own shoulders in doing it. All right? So again, don't overlook this. Now, that said, I know there's probably a number of you who would simply just like access to this source code that I'm using here, so that you can just literally, instead of having to write this from scratch yourself, you can just take the template that I have here, use it as it is, tweak it, or use it as a foundation for taking some other themes and so forth from Wrap Bootstrap or Start Bootstrap or whatever, and using them for their clients. But you want access to the source code. All the source code for this and all the source codes that I have for everything that I do, the contact forms, everything is available over on Patreon for supporting listeners. There's a source code specific perk over there. When you sign up for that, then you will get access to this source code. So you can do that at johnmorrisonline.com/Patreon. You'll get access to this and, again, all the rest of my source code and so forth. All right, so thanks for watching this episode. If you liked it, be sure to like it so they know that you like this kind of content. If you know somebody who could benefit from using this, a friend in the dev community who could use this information, then I'd appreciate if you'd share it with them. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. We'll talk to you next time.